We need to talk about ideas, good ones and bad ones. We need to learn stuff about the world. We need an honest, intelligent, thought-provoking, and entertaining review of what the hell happened on this planet in the last 7 days. We need to sit back and listen to the Iron Fist and the Velvet Glove.
And indeed, we have the Velvet Glove with us on this occasion. Coming in from regional Queensland, Scott, how are you?
Good, thanks, Trevor. G'day, Joe. G'day, listeners. I hope everyone's doing well.
And also Joe, the tech guy, as usual. Joe.
Evening all.
Yes. Welcome back. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm feeling, I got my little rant out of my system the other day, so that's good. We're just going to talk about our usual mishmash of topics and what's going on in the world and what's on the agenda. We're going to talk about, there's an essential report came out, which is obviously polling, and it looks at climate change and what people are thinking about climate change. Rutger Bregman, he gave a talk arguing that society's in decline. I'm agreeing with him on that one. FIFA, football organisation, decides to give a peace prize to Donald Trump. We're giving away gas. If you don't change your iPhone every year, you're accused of device hoarding. Donald Trump's doing all sorts of nasty things in Latin America, and a whole bunch of other things that we will get onto. Is it depressing enough already? I hope not. But anyway, if you're in the chat room, say hello. We will try and add your comments. So yeah, I had this essential report polling from a couple of weeks ago now, but it is on attitudes to climate change. And, well, what's the overall picture in terms of Australia and climate change and acceptance of it? So the question, do you believe that there is fairly conclusive evidence that climate change is happening and caused by human activity? Or do you believe that the evidence is still not in and we may just be witnessing a normal fluctuation in the Earth's climate, which happens from time to time? Guys, that's pretty much the fundamental question, it seems, for the initial climate acceptance or denial. And dear listener, climate change is happening and is caused by human activity, 53%. Versus we are just witnessing a normal fluctuation in the Earth's climate, 31%. Don't know, 16%. Guys, does that seem still a high figure to you?
I think it's actually reversed. I think it was higher when it was first mooted.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been the lobbying by the coal and gas industry that has made more people doubters. And I think that the right wing have deliberately fomented that because it suits a divisiveness. It is popular on social media because it gets people more enraged and eyes glued to the screen. And there are certain bad actors who are also helping that. And I think that there are certain members of political parties who don't believe at all that climate change isn't happening, but it suits their purpose to argue with the government or argue with Labour.
I just handily happen to have the trend line, which I've put on the screen there, Joe, which goes back to, it's hard to read, but I think that's 2010. So at its peak, which was around 2015, we had 64% accepting climate change caused by human activity as opposed to 54% now. So it has declined. So back in 2010, it was 53%. By 2015, it was up to 64, and now it's dropped back to 54.
There's a big drop back at around COVID time.
Yes.
And I think that was the government's a conspiracy. They're doing this for lockdown. It's the global world order. It's the new world order. It's the Jews trying to take over the world.
Mm.
And I think a lot of it is the whole anti-government thing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I felt that was a high figure, that overall 31% not
Mm.
accepting it. So, well, what's the demographic breakdown?
Still high for the 18 to 34-year-olds.
Indeed. Still, in the 18 to 34-year-olds, 29% thinking it's just normal fluctuation. In the 55 plus, that is 38%. So in all age groups, there's a majority of people accepting climate change is caused by human activity. But the margin...
No, the 55 plus is. It's not a majority.
Well, taking out the don't knows,
Okay.
I guess. So if we just take out the don't knows, we've got 49 versus 38. So an 11% greater belief in that. Yeah, still high
What
figures
I'd
for
like
young
to
people.
say to the 38 percenters is, what will be the worst thing that happens if we do stop burning coal and gas and we have renewable energy?
They lose money because they're heavily invested in.
Yeah, look, I've got some BHP shares too, but I'm not really worried about it.
No,
it's
but
just
it's not a rational thing. It's to do with my group versus their group, and my group believe that climate change isn't real. It's not like they've gone out and looked at the evidence.
no.
They've just chosen their expert that they want to listen to.
Yeah, who's the same dickhead that produces all sorts of shit on YouTube?
Yeah, tribal thinking again.
It is.
Yeah. What have I got here? By voting intention, no surprise that Labor supporters more likely to accept climate change as human activity. Greens, even more so. Not a lot more, actually. This is an interesting one. So, accepting climate change caused by human activity. Greens, 72%. Labor, 69%. So there's only 3% more. And within that green category, 19% of Green supporters are just witnessing a normal fluctuation in the Earth's climate. This seemed a very high figure for people who are Green supporters.
Absolutely, it does.
It's worrying because why are you a Green supporter if you don't believe?
It might be for social justice reasons. It might be the whole anti-AUKUS and the other things that the Greens are doing. But
Possibly.
maybe.
But then why would you be buying into the bullshit that the right wing are spreading?
I don't know. It's an interesting one, that one.
Exactly.
I found that an interesting figure. And, of course, independent or other party, and I'm thinking Pauline Hanson, for those.
One Notion.
Yes, 49% says it's normal fluctuation and only 35% say it's caused by human activity. So, yeah. And the coalition almost evenly split, coalition voters. 43% believe, 44% don't. So,
I mean, it'll be interesting to see now they've dropped net zero in the coalition.
coalition.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. How they do it the next election, because I think that's the final nail in the coffin for them.
Oh, it is, absolutely. I just cannot believe that they've done it. I could understand the National Party banging on about it, but I cannot believe the Liberals have signed their own death warrant. They have gone into this eyes wide open and they have decided to commit political suicide.
Given that they have to get back urban electorates in order to win.
Absolutely.
And
I mean,
We
what the, it's like they've got this fixation on winning Mackay, which they've held for the last 20 odd years. Apart from that brief period when Kevin Rudd won, there was that 3-year period that the Labor Party held this seat up here. But after that was all over, they'd gone back to re-electing a National Party person. I just don't understand why the hell that they would think this is a good idea.
they're
like
ideologically committed, these people.
Yeah, but they're utter dickheads.
They are just ideologically committed.
They failed at the last election, and their soul searching has led them in the direction of obviously it must be to do with net zero, and that's the way we're going to win.
Mm.
God knows why.
Did you say soul searching?
Yes,
Well, there was a Batuta Advocate
I
article.
saw it. Yes.
A 6-month-long internal soul-searching exercise designed to examine the Liberal Party's historic election loss has been abandoned after it became obvious a soul did not exist.
But you
It
also
goes-
saw that Barnaby has defected.
Yeah, Barnaby's
Is that-
run away to join Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party.
Is that official now, is it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
official. Yeah, they announced it on the 98 point or 88.9, whatever the hell the radio station is in Tamworth.
Was that sometime today? It's
Yeah, it
announced.
was sometime today.
Right, yeah. Just to finish that Batuta Advocate article, but the last bit is the report recommended developing an interim soul using focus groups and generative AI. That's a good one, Tudor. Thank you. But where was I? Just to finish off on belief in climate change being man-made or just natural event. They then asked people concerned for existential threats, meaning, life on planet Earth ceasing to exist as we know it. And how concerned are you about the following existential threats? And then they're sort of ranked here. And dear listener, I'm going to go from the bottom to the top in terms of how people rated existential threats. So of the 6 that they went for, at the bottom, a meteor strike, 13% very concerned. Another global pandemic, 23%. Nuclear warfare, 28%. Catastrophic impacts of climate change, 28%. Social upheaval through rising inequality, this is actually 25%, but it also is added to a quite concerned figure, which was quite high. So, and then the number one thing that people were concerned about as an existential threat was the development of AI that is self-aware. Joe, are you shaking your head there, Joe?
AI is less intelligent than a One Nation voter. So I don't think it's a big risk.
Joe, the look of disgust on your face then as you were shaking your head.
AI is just a very clever word guessing machine.
Right.
It's never going to become, not in a foreseeable future is it going to become self-aware and take over the world.
Yes. So, yeah. A lot of people saying in the chat room here, Dire Straits, maybe we found a government as corrupt as FIFA. Yep, get onto that. Did I hear right? After destroying the Lib Nats, Barnaby is off to One Nation. I mean, we all know that's going to end in tears.
Absolutely, it is. It's just, he might win a term in the Senate in New South Wales. He might.
Right.
But he's not going to, I just think he's drunk his own Kool-Aid where he honestly believes that he's the best retail politician in the country.
I don't think he's drinking Kool-Aid, Scott.
Well, he's
No,
whatever.
I thought he dried out, actually.
Anyway, whatever he's drinking, he's just delusional.
Alex in the chat room says, traded in the last bit of his self-respect for a Senate number 1 spot and a crap load of extra super. Think he will drink himself to death in the 6-year term, ? So
He really wouldn't surprise me.
Do you remember when he was found in the flower bed?
Yeah.
He said after that was his come to Jesus moment and he realised he needed to sober up. So I don't know that he's drinking anymore.
Well, okay.
Well, either way, he's not making a hell of a lot of sense.
Well, yeah.
I reckon if you're going to spend time with Pauline Hanson and you're trying to stay sober,
you'd end up
that's
drinking.
right. Incidentally, Crikey had an article about Barnaby Joyce on a completely unrelated matter. Have you guys, like down here on the Gold Coast, electric e-bikes, like cycling?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
these things are everywhere.
yeah.
And there's always at least 2 kids on them none of them wearing helmets.
Mhm.
These bikes are heavy, big things. They're like a trail bike to look at.
Mhm.
And with
they're motorbikes, most of them.
yeah, and they can go at such an incredible speed, and they're winding along these sort of shared pathways on the Esplanade here at the Gold Coast. Kids hurtling along. It's at least 150 kilos of weight careering along within inches of old people like me.
Hmm.
And it's completely unregulated. If one of them
Mhm.
hits you, there is no insurance because they're not a registered vehicle.
Mhm.
And apparently, we used to have a tightly regulated e-bike sort of industry or the import laws
Hmm.
following the European model. And it was Barnaby Joyce as some sort of transport minister who decided to cut through the red tape and make it essentially a deregulated situation. And now we've got this mess where there are just hundreds of thousands of dangerous vehicles hurtling around the place, people getting killed and injured left, right, and centre, and the governments are now having to play catch up on how the hell do we regulate this now? So
It's one of those things. I cannot believe that our city council up here allowed the beam electric scooters into the whole city, because they might have helmets on them and all that sort of stuff, but I've never seen anyone using them while they've been riding them. Now these are regulated. They've got a particular speed limit in them and all that
They
sort
do,
of stuff.
yeah.
But the other things that you buy, they
Yeah,
don't.
the private ones don't. So legally, for an electric bike, they have to have pedals,
Mm.
and the motor only kicks in when you are pedaling. They're an assist, and they have to cut out at 30 kilometers an hour, I think it is.
Mhm.
and
So
and
if you're
nearly
doing
every
above 30, you don't get any electric.
but nearly every bike down here has been bypassed.
Oh yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. It's just
somehow.
that, you know,
I don't think I've seen a kid pedaling one of them yet. Like they all
no,
just hurtle.
I've seen them up here too. They're just riding them. They're just treating them like they're motorbikes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
well, a bit of steel wire across the footpaths.
Yeah.
well, and you can get it. Like if I was a kid that age,
Yeah, absolutely.
of course you'd want one. So, and you'd be doing
Yeah,
exactly
but-
what they're doing. So,
But as a parent, you go, no, you can't have it.
that's right.
See, it's one of those things. Like apparently,
Government.
who's that teal independent from New South Wales that's actually raising the alarm bells about them? She said that that the emergency departments are full of kids that have actually broken their arms and smashed themselves up on it. And the other thing too is the electric scooters and everything up here. The only people that are making any money out of it are the dentists.
Yes.
You know,
Well,
it's,
yes, because scooters, people hurdle along. It
Yeah.
only has to hit the tiniest of bumps,
and you
and
go
people are thrown
flying.
forward.
Exactly.
I've seen a few e-bikes around here, and also it looked like somebody had strapped a lawnmower engine on a standard push bike.
Mm.
It was tearing up the road outside my place. Sounded bloody awful. But it was the scooters a couple of years ago. There was one I used to see at the shops all the time that had a couple of milk crates strapped, bungee corded onto the deck for a seat.
Yeah, I've also seen that too. You know, it's just, you know, it's
Yes.
only a matter of time before someone gets killed on them, or someone gets killed by them. You know.
Yeah, well, I think people are getting killed quite regularly, unfortunately. Yeah. Alex in the chat room says we will end up with speed bumps every 3 meters on every footpath.
Well, the other problem with these cheap e-bikes and cheap as in they imported them themselves is there've been lots of battery fires because of them, because they're completely unregulated. There's no safety standards on them.
Yep.
And so there'll be more. Yeah, it used to be. Do you remember the plug-in air fresheners
Yes.
that plug into the mains and heat up? Yeah, those were the leading cause of house fire until lithium batteries became a thing.
Right. Yeah. And the problem is they're a fire that's really hard to put out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
often, I think I've been seeing that, you know, if a Tesla vehicle or something catches fire, the police just stand by and just watch it burn because it's almost impossible to put it out?
Yeah, I mean, you can't use standard. You have to take the heat away, and I think in Europe they basically have a truck that is just filled up with water, and they pick the car up with a crane and just
Right.
pump it in this huge tank of water and
Yeah.
leave it there for 24 hours until it's cooled down enough that the battery doesn't reignite when you pull it out of the water.
Wow. Mm.
And the same on planes. Apparently, battery packs. So they now actually they have insulated and airproof bags on planes, and if somebody's battery pack catches fire, they just put it in this
Right.
and leave it, and it doesn't. None of the fumes can get out, and it's insulated so it doesn't heat anything up. And basically, they deal with it when they land.
Mm. I actually contravened flight regulations and had a banned item in my carry-on luggage coming back from Sydney the other day.
Carry-on's normally okay. They want it
Well-
in the carry-on, not checked.
Well, this wasn't a battery. I had forgotten that I had a Stanley knife in
Oh.
my so
Jesus
so as
Christ.
I've gone through the X-ray, got to the other end and they've pulled me over to the side, and I've gone, oh, that's right, forgot about the Stanley knife. Sorry. They're like, okay. And they said, but there's something else here. And then they're rummaging through my bag. I said, well, that's the only knife I've got in there. Anyway, they pulled out a roll of electrical tape.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to carry electrical tape on a plane.
Really?
Really?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes, because you might be aiming to tie people up
Bind and
as you
gag?
then,
Yeah.
or something like that. So I lost my Stanley knife and my electrical tape.
Years ago, when I was traveling, I was at school in England and I was traveling backwards and forwards to Jersey. And one day I was wandering around at school, felt in my shirt pocket and pulled out a 2.2 round, a round of ammunition. And I'm going, I only have a license for those in Jersey. So this has been with me when I got on a plane.
There
I
you go.
traveled through security. This was back in the
Yeah.
80s.
You wouldn't get
I don't-
through with it now.
Yeah, I got through airport security with a live round of ammunition in me.
There we go. So yeah, keep the electrical tape in your main luggage. I won't say why I was why I was flying with electrical tape. Just work that one out.
Well, yeah, I mean, I travel with a toolkit because I install things, electronic things, and I've had screwdrivers taken off me by airport security,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
which is
So there we go.
frustrating because a screwdriver is a really useful thing.
Indeed. Now, title of this podcast was what did I say? Something about monsters, wasn't it? So Rutger Bregman, Dutch historian. We've spoken about him a few times. So Rutger Bregman, Scott, this is the guy who was at a Davos conference once and addressing all of the billionaires who had flown in on their private jets. And he said, this is a marvelous conference. Like, it's all really good, but, and you're all, plans on how do we fix the world? Nobody has mentioned tax. Tax. Nobody's mentioned it. He said, I feel like I'm at a firefighters conference and nobody's mentioned water. And it was a really, he sort of shot to prominence then. And the other thing he did, he wrote a book what's the classic tale where people are marooned on an island and these boys, their flight...
Lord of the Flies?
Lord of the Flies.
Right.
And Lord of the Flies was taken as being kind of, that's how people are. They'll degenerate into selfish, tribal, savage beings if left to their own devices. And he actually heard about this situation where these Polynesian guys who were young students, sort of teenagers, 15, 16, on an island, had decided to steal a boat and go for a joyride, got lost, and kind of like Gilligan's Island, ended up marooned on some island somewhere, and Nobody knew that they had gone or where they'd gone, assumed they'd drowned. And these kids lived on the island for like 9 months or something, or 12 months before they were miraculously found. And the whole point of the story was Bregman tracked down the people who found them and spoke to other survivors and whatnot. And ultimately, these guys all really cooperated really well, these young fellas, and they found ways of teamwork, of giving each other space. It was like a great example that, in fact, these guys didn't degenerate into a Lord of the Flies type scenario. They actually rose well above that into a lovely little community of kids, teenage boys who managed to solve their problems and look after each other. Really inspiring story. And he's also lately doing he's an interesting guy, actually, because he's on this campaign to say to people that, our brightest minds in the West are ending up going to work for Goldman Sachs and finance firms. And he says it's where talent goes to die. So our best and brightest people from elite universities are going into those firms and selling their souls to do meaningless work that pays them lots of money. And he's actually started a documentary where they're saying to bright Harvard graduates, don't take that path, do something that will change the world, and challenging them to get real jobs that are meaningful rather than these well-paid but meaningless jobs that won't use their talent.
I saw a lecture from a guy who was saying all these people who are going into IT jobs, for Google or Apple or whoever else. And he said, all these people going in with the best intentions and they get trapped in doing horrible things, basically screwing over the customers, and saying, when you go into a job, have your, this is so bad, I'm leaving, but also this is so good, I'm leaving. And this is so bad, I'm leaving is, what is the threshold? What is the boundary? What behavior are you going to leave over? But this is so good is, all right, I've paid off my mortgage. Now I'm going to do something that is socially beneficial rather than is going to, have your, I'm going to leave rather than being trapped in the cycle of I'm earning $250,000 a year or whatever it is. I can't possibly leave.
Yeah. When is enough?
Yeah, absolutely. He said, have this in your mind going in and review it every year.
There we go. So anyway, that's Rutger Bregman, and that was a long introduction for. He was invited to give the BBC Reith lecture, and it's caused controversy because after recording and editing, the BBC decided to censor Bregman's words and remove a reference where Bregman described Donald Trump as the most openly corrupt president in American history. And Bregman's appalled by the decision, and he said, the irony could not be bigger. The lecture, titled A Time of Monsters, is about the cowardice of today's elites, universities, corporations, and media networks bending the knee to authoritarianism. For decades, the Reith lectures have been one of the BBC's most important platforms for open debate and free expression. That's why this really matters. So that lecture, and the BBC had to censor his quite legitimate comment that Donald Trump is the most openly corrupt president in American history.
I can understand that the BBC would probably be gun shy because of that documentary that. Say again?
Him suing them?
Yeah, he's suing them over that documentary that they spliced in. That they cut out They cut out a section of his speech without actually saying that we've cut out 20 minutes of his speech. And that is why he's suing them. Now, God alone knows where he's come up with the $4 billion mark from, but anyway, that's what he reckons it's cost him. So I just think to myself that he's just trying to make as much money as he possibly can. However, I didn't mean that, Donald, if you are listening.
He just wants them to. He thinks they're going to settle. He thinks they're going to give him a sum of money just to go away,
Yeah, that really wouldn't surprise me.
and that's what he's done with other people.
Hmm.
Mm.
And you know, this is my assumption because obviously I can't know his mind, but it seems to be his MO.
Hmm.
So in his speech, besides accusing Donald Trump of being the most openly corrupt president in history, he said it would feel dishonest to begin on an optimistic note, as the Italian philosopher Antonio Gramsci wrote in 1926, scribbling in a notebook while in prison, "The old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters." So that was Gramsci writing in 1926.
Mm-hmm.
And it does feel like in 2025, we've reached
Yeah,
the same
it's
point
gone. Hmm.
100 years later. So he says, when the great historian Edward Gibbon described the decline of Rome, he didn't speak in vague abstractions. He gave us names, dates, and details, page after page of cowardice and corruption. Reading the decline and fall of the Roman Empire is like watching a civilization rot in slow motion. Sadistic emperors on gilded thrones, generals who sold out their own armies, and senators who cared more for spectacle than statecraft. And yet what shocks you most when you read Gibbon today isn't the depravity, it's the familiarity. Gibbon wrote about politicians who lacked seriousness, elites who lacked virtue, and societies that mistook decadence for progress. 2,000 years later, we live in an age where billionaires dodge their taxes, politicians perform instead of govern, and media barons profit from lies and hatred. The Roman elite fiddled while Rome burned. Our elites live streamed the fire and monetized the smoke.
Our elites fiddle kids whilst Rome.
Yes. What a great line, though. I wish I could write like that. The Roman elite fiddled while Rome burned. Our elites live streamed the fire and monetized the smoke. Immorality and unseriousness. These are two defining traits of our leaders today, and they're not accidental flaws, but the logical outcome of what I call the survival of the shameless. Dear listener, I've been talking for a while about the lack of shame in this society. People are not held to account. Even when they're dead, people like Graham Richardson, who should be vilified, gets a state funeral.
Yeah.
Today is not the most. It's not the most capable who rise, but the least scrupulous. Not the most virtuous, but the most brazen. And he says, the truth is that decay is everywhere. The moral rot runs deep across elite institutions of every stripe. The right is defined by shameless corruption. The Liberals answer with a paralysing cowardice. So
I worry about the whole morality and shame because morality and shame has been used to silence and isolate people who are not the norm, as in gay people, trans, whatever. Yeah, minorities in that way. And so I don't want to see a return to morality, but I do want to see people held to account when they're politicians, when they're public figures.
Yeah. I suppose shame, though, is when you have breached
Societal norms.
correct, and ones that we can all agree are fairly fundamental and long-standing ones, like, don't just use your army to shoot down poor fishermen off the coast of Venezuela. And
Well, that's a war crime.
yes, and boast about it afterwards. Like there should be shame for using the power at your disposal to blow up poor people minding their own business thousands of miles away from your country. But no shame.
Who are absolutely no threat to your country.
And, who was it, Dick Cheney, who died recently?
Yeah.
Iraq War, there should be, I think we can, a fairly clear moral standard that was a war with no good substantive reason to happen, and he's responsible for deaths of millions and misery of millions, and yet was not required to suffer the shame of that in his old
But they
age.
got the oil fields, so that was what was important.
And in fact, had a comfortable and wonderful retirement surrounded by family and friends when he should have been in a prison feeling the shame. No shame. Yeah. So anyway, good stuff on
Yeah, I mean, I saw something recently talking about how the right-wing MAGA particularly are now equivocating about Epstein.
Mhm.
And how, he wasn't a paedophile because they were all over the age of puberty.
Yeah, I have seen that, and that made me physically ill.
And also just the whole, you're only interested in these because they're Republican names, and the Democrat supporters are going, no, show us the Democrat names, show us everybody. We want to know who's involved. We don't give a damn which side of the fence they sit on. Yeah, we want to know who these people are so they can be brought to justice. But the right wing are going, oh, we only care about the Democrats. They want to hide their own. It's two standards, isn't it? It's
hypocrisy. Yes. We did mention just briefly, I think, or in the intro I did, FIFA have offered a peace prize. FIFA as in the
football,
International Football Federation, soccer to some of us. What? We're offering a peace prize.
Look,
Exactly.
I think this is a good ploy if it makes Donald Trump stop trying to give Ukraine to Russia.
Right.
Because he's after the Nobel Peace Prize. If he's happy enough with this that he stops interfering and allows Europe to deal with it, as he keeps claiming, until his mate Vlad goes, honestly, I'll help you get the Peace Prize.
Should he stop interfering by stop supplying weapons then, Joe? Is that what you're saying?
Well, he's selling weapons.
He's selling weapons to Europe, and Europe is now giving them to Ukraine.
Is that interfering?
No. They're selling.
Oh, that's not
what he's talking about is he's interfering, because that last peace plan may well have been written by the Kremlin.
It was written by the Kremlin.
Anyway, it's just one of those things that he doesn't even realize that he's obviously a Russian plant, that he's out there trying to get Vladimir Putin to agree to a deal that no self-respecting Ukrainian would agree to.
Zelensky, trying to get Zelensky to agree to a deal. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. That maybe self-respecting Ukrainians would agree to that because maybe they've had enough of this war.
I think they've probably all had enough of this war.
Maybe they're willing to settle.
What they're being asked to give away is territory that is not being currently occupied by the Russians, which would break Ukraine's defensive lines up and hand over everything to the Russians and leave the country lying open bare without membership of NATO or anything else. And then they're just going to be waiting till Russia has gone back and licked their wounds, and then they'll come in and take the rest of the country.
Got a graph on the screen.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And it's going to show that the Ukrainian people have had a gutful of it. And I agree wholeheartedly with them. I would have a gutful too.
It doesn't say Ukraine should negotiate a complete and unconditional surrender.
Exactly.
Because we've had this before, Joe, haven't we? Where there was a poll and it was like, it was confusing in that they said the war should stop, but then they weren't willing to concede any of the territory to the Russians, which meant that the war wasn't going to stop.
Yeah. And I think this is probably more of the same.
Well, whatever it is, if the original question was the same in 2022 as it is today in 2025, whatever the question is, it shows a significant change of opinion.
Yeah.
Where,
so that they don't think they're going to win the war. But that doesn't mean that they'll accept an
unconditional surrender,
or even a ceasefire that puts them at a strategic disadvantage in 3 years when Russia has regrouped and is ready to attack again.
This, for those who've got audio only, and those this is a Gallup poll. in Ukraine. So from 2022 to 2025. Which of the following statements about the war with Russia comes closest to your personal views? And Ukraine should continue fighting until it wins the war. That was over 70%, and it's now 24%.
Mhm.
However, people understood that.
Yeah.
And percentage of Ukraine should seek to negotiate an ending to the war as soon as possible.
They are
And that
seeking to
was-
negotiate an ending.
That was a bit over 22% and is now 69%.
Mhm.
So whatever technically the specifics of that question is understood by people, over time there's been a dramatic shift, which would seem to indicate to me
Mhm.
that the Ukrainians have had enough and they're done.
Yeah, but they're waiting for a reasonable
And-
proposal.
And all Donald Trump is doing is helping them along to reach.
He's selling them out, yes.
Well, you know, like, give me, if I am a young 17-year-old Ukrainian boy
Mhm.
about to reach 18 when I
Yeah.
will be drafted into.
No, you won't.
I won't be.
No,
What'll happen to me?
nothing. They're
I
not
just refuse
drafting
to go.
anyone under 25.
Oh, okay. If I'm a young 24-year-old Ukrainian man
Yeah.
and I'm about to turn 25,
hmm
I would be hoping that Trump is successful in convincing Zelensky
I
to
think-
take the deal.
I
That
think the
I
answer
wouldn't
is-
want to go.
I think the answer is no. They've seen the atrocities that the Russians have committed.
Mhm.
They realise that this is merely Putin negotiating because Putin is hurting. The Ukrainians have hit his oil supplies.
Mhm.
I'm hearing from my Russian friends that Russia is raising taxes on people that they didn't used to have to because of hydrocarbons.
Mhm.
So Putin is desperate to get a ceasefire as well. He's just trying to negotiate for all of his original aims. A
Mhm.
weakened Ukraine that he can walk all over. He wants a vassal state.
Have you guys heard of Niall Ferguson, Professor Niall Ferguson?
Possibly. Irish
Hoover
guy?
Institute. I think so. He's a conservative historian.
Mhm.
So he's on the conservative side of things. So describes himself as a classical liberal, appears on the Rubin Report. There you go. That's
Okay.
how it's sort of, he's on that side.
So
refers
taking
to
money from
himself-
Russia then.
He refers to himself as a classic Scottish Enlightenment liberal. So what did you say, Joe, about Russia then?
Takes money from Russia then. Like
This guy?
Rubin Report did.
Possibly.
Yeah, he did.
Some of his research and conclusions have been criticised by commentators on the political left. Look, I think you would have to say that he's one of a right-wing commentator.
Mhm.
Anyway, so here he is talking about the Russian economy.
But anybody who thinks this is going to translate into an economic crisis is smoking some very strong substance. Let me just give you some more facts, sobering though they are. So Russian military spending has roughly doubled in the course of the war. It's north of 7% of GDP. Its deficit currently, or last year, stood at 2.4% of GDP, 2.5 rather. Its debt to GDP is a mere 14%. This puts it in a fiscally stronger position than I think just about every EU member state. A third of the state's revenues are from oil and gas, which it continues to sell on global markets through its shadow fleet, despite all talk of sanctions. The inflation rate is 8.7%. But get this, Russian real wages have risen 22% since the war began. Unemployment simply doesn't exist. Disposable income is up 48%. Retail sales are 28% up. Consumer sentiment in Russia today is at all-time highs. The sanctions regime has failed utterly.
Well, there's a picture which may or may not be true, but sounded like things are going all right in the Russian economy.
Yeah, but what happens when the war stops? What happens when the government stops spending and suddenly there is a surge of unemployment and all this money that they've burned?
But weren't you saying things are really bad now? And
Yeah, they're
Putin's
starting to.
desperate because
They are starting to, yeah.
well, it doesn't sound like it. So
Well,
Well, an 8.7% inflation rate, yes, that's quite low compared to a 22% increase in wages. However, it's still quite high.
well, disposable income.
Yeah, I know disposable income has gone up, but you've also got inflation ticking along at 8.7%.
Right. Dire Straits says, and that guy's selling you a bridge trip. Well, what's the true figures then, Dire Strait? Like, are those figures false? Are they?
Well, okay. The other day I was listening to The Economist, which I know you're going to bag me for, which is they were saying that the Russian economy is starting to show signs of creaking. I think it said was under the strain of the war.
They've been declaring the end of China's economy for the last 25 years. They've been saying,
I
The
don't think
Economist has been
anyone's
saying
actually-
that China
No, The Economist-
is about to collapse for the
They
last.
have never said that China's economy is going to collapse. They have frequently had very positive stories on China, and they've also got a podcast which is dedicated to China, whose name escapes me right now. I think it's called the. I have to find out what it's called. It's the whatever the bell tower was called in Beijing. Anyway, that is devoted weekly to China, and they have never said anything negative about the Chinese economy. All they've said was that China keeps growing from strength to strength. Now,
No, over the last 2 decades, no. Like, anyway, go on. Sorry.
They have been critical of China with the real estate boom and everything else. They said that they haven't got that under control yet. But they've also been quite complimentary of the Chinese government, saying that there's nothing is too big to fail. They allow stuff to fail, which is a good thing, because had the Americans and the British allowed their banks to fail, then they could have actually, I honestly believe that the way that the financial crisis was mishandled by governments was ridiculous. I think we should have actually stepped in and said, no, we're going to reinstate Glass-Steagall and we're going to allow these banks to fail, but the next day they're going to be owned by the government. And then once we've got them profitable again, then we'll privatize them. Anyway, it's one of those things.
I'll trot out for next week a series of articles, but The Economist has been claiming the collapse of China for the last 30 years. Like,
I never heard them say that.
Well, it's... Okay, I'll trot a few articles out, but
I know you can always trot them out, but I wouldn't have read them or anything like that. But I just don't.
Well, it doesn't matter whether you've read them or not. When the Economist says stuff, they've got a real agenda. It's almost like the Murdoch press saying something when the Economist comes out.
That bad.
No, they're not to be trusted. So,
right.
Anyway,
Okay.
in my humble opinion, but we'll agree to differ on that one. So yeah, that's in the chat. Andrew says that Niall Ferguson is married to Ayaan Hirsi Ali. There we go. Fun fact for you. Thank you.
Knew I'd heard the name, but
Andrew.
couldn't remember where from.
Yes, and Alison has just joined us. Alison, it's 8:20. You're a bit late to the party, but welcome aboard.
I dare say she's going to listen to us tomorrow.
Yeah, perhaps. So, what else? I just had something else briefly about Ukraine. At the end of this episode, on the audio version, I'm going to play for you.
Alison apologizes.
I'm going to play for you George Yeo, Y-E-O, former Foreign Minister of Singapore, demonstrating a deeper grasp of European history and its conflicts, and notably the Ukrainian war, than most Western politicians will ever have. So I'll play that at the end of this in the audio-only version so that it goes for about 5 minutes. quite instructive as he looks at the situation, and the way he talks about it and his knowledge of history off the cuff as he's being interviewed demonstrates an understanding that you would not get from any of our Western leaders at this point in time. So put that at the end, but I won't. It goes on a little bit too long for the moment. So other things happening. We've just done the FIFA Peace Prize. More evidence of the decay. Okay. You know, this National Anti-Corruption Commission, which is operating so badly that you would be sure it was a child of Scott Morrison. It just reeks and smells of Scott Morrison, but it's all Anthony Albanese and this Labor government. So this commissioner, who, in my humble opinion, has been doing a terrible job, has been moonlighting on the side. He earns $800,000 a year in his role, and he's been, on the side providing advice to the Inspector General of the Australian Defence Force during his work time. And, of course, that creates a conflict because the defence matters are referred to the National Anti-Corruption Commission. Like, this guy, where did they get him from? And it just blows my mind that he just keeps doing the most inappropriate things for a National Anti-Corruption Commissioner.
I think he should be sacked.
You'd have to work hard to make the number of mistakes that this guy makes.
I just cannot believe that. Have they published the result of their inquiry into those four or eight people or whatever were referred to the NAC?
I haven't heard. I don't know.
Exactly, I haven't heard anything either.
This is the one where they refused to sort of deal with it, and I don't know.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be some sort of commission of inquiry into that.
I've lost track. Not sure. We're giving away gas, of course, like we've mentioned before on this podcast, that in terms of electricity prices, one of the driving forces of the wholesale rate going up would be gas. And we, of course, give away our gas.
And then buy it back at an exorbitant price.
Yes. And David Pocock, former Australian Rugby Union fellow, he does some good stuff.
He's been really holding the government's feet to the fire over this.
Yes. Amazing what happens when you just get some ordinary people in the place who haven't had to be a Labor union official their entire life.
Or a Liberal Party lackey or anything else.
Or a Liberal Party operative / Christian nationalist nutter. It's just some ordinary people getting in and asking some questions. So here's Pocock asking a question of the Labor Minister about gas.
Why is the government happy to give away 50% of our gas exports royalty-free, PRT-free?
Well, we have the tax settings we have in place. They reflect decisions of government. The work that other ministers are doing on the future gas strategy, on rebuilding the energy system, making sure that we have that available and raising revenue to support priorities is, it's an all-consuming part of mine and the Treasurer's job.
Seems like a pretty easy win here if we actually said that these natural resources belong to all Australians. You can export it and make a profit, but you actually have to pay for them. And there is overwhelming support both in the Parliament and in the public. And yet the government went for the weakest option that was proposed by Treasury to reform PRT. So what's going on here? Why are you putting multinational gas companies' interests and profit ahead of Australians' revenue?
I don't accept that. That's your view, Senator Pocock. I don't accept it.
We're going to have to rotate.
Clear-cut question. Terrible, waffly answer.
Well, I don't accept those facts. I insert my own facts.
As a government, it just wouldn't be that hard to come in and go, the arrangements that are in place.
Get the funding from the gas company for the next round of elections.
It's so disappointing, this Labor government. They just it's just Scott Morrison without the smirk.
Yeah.
So, hey, Cameron Lecky was in the chat room. Good on you, Cameron. Good to see you there. Doing good work as usual out there. I've seen you on a few podcasts and on Twitter. What else have I got here? That was Pocock. Device hoarding. This is weird. How old is your phone, Scott?
I've actually got a relatively new one. I bought this around about 6 or 9 months ago.
Right.
But prior to that, I had an old iPhone that was an iPhone 6 or something like that.
Yep.
I only stopped using it because they no longer backed it up or anything like that. I wasn't receiving anything, and a lot of my apps were stopped working on it.
Yeah, you were.
I've still got it. I've still got it sitting here on my desk. Actually, I've got to work out what the hell to do with it.
It's a paperweight. Joe, how old's your phone?
Yeah, it's a paperweight.
2 months, I think. My old one went to my daughter as a hand-me-down.
Oh, there you go. I've got an iPhone 11. I think it's about 3 years old or 4, something like that.
Yeah, about 4, I would say.
Works perfectly well, but according to CNBC in America, title of the article, How Device Hoarding by Americans is Costing the Economy. Americans are holding on to devices longer than ever before, and while it may be consumer smart, it comes at a cost to work productivity, blah, blah, blah. So this is the stage of capitalism we're at, where people are criticised for hanging on to devices.
Do you remember when your
long.
fridge would last you 30 years?
Yes. Yes. There we go. So that's naughty of you if you've got a phone that's a few years old.
One of the reasons I refuse to buy into the Apple Watch is I don't want to replace a watch every 2 years.
Yes. Yeah. Old-fashioned, Joe, and not good for the economy.
Obviously.
You're costing the productivity of the nation, or the Chinese nation, perhaps.
Yeah.
More importantly, and Harvey Norman or JB Hi-Fi and the Chinese. Yeah. Venezuela. Everyone knows on this podcast I have a soft spot for Latin American countries that get bullied by the Americans. I traveled through Central and South America as a young man when I was 19. Loved the experience, and so I paid particular attention to this. And Donald Trump, in one of his truths, which I follow on Twitter by an account that just copies his truths, to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider, and then in capitals, the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump just unilaterally declares that the airspace above a sovereign country is closed. Thank you very much for your attention to this matter. Because he just doesn't like them. And meanwhile, Hegseth, the Secretary of War, now this is the sort of thing where you've got to admire the honesty of these guys, rather than the Secretary of Defense. The Secretary of War, aptly named Secretary of Perpetual War, I think Caitlin Johnson refers to it, running Operation Southern Spear, and they've been lining up for a while to contemplate. They've got aircraft carrier there. They're bombing poor fishermen who are miles away from anywhere. I mean, even if they weren't poor fishermen, and even if they were suspected drug dealers, they don't have the death penalty for these sorts of things.
They've got to wait until they cross over into US waters. They've got to be stopped by the Coast Guard. They've got to have their vessels searched. If they find contraband on them, then they should be arrested.
Yes.
Hard. Just kill them.
This is the depravity that Rutger Bregman was talking about, the time of monsters. When
remember, there has to be one group of people that the law protects but does not bind, and another group that the law binds but does not protect.
It seems to be the case. And, you know, this sort of criminal, blatant behaviour and our stupid government, Labor government, wants to hitch our wagon even further onto the American Defence Force when we know that they're operating like pricks. They're using their military to kill innocent people, or at least people who have, well, we know they're innocent, but clearly they're going to be innocent people because there's no trial being done, no due process, just killing them. That's what they're using the military for. And we are wanting to entangle our military in with that sort of military who go around just shooting innocent people. And so our military personnel, our equipment, when it's all part of the same massive, complicated service, is going to be tarred with the same brush when they do that shit over here in the Pacific and Southeast Asia.
See, if we'd done that with the refugees on the boats, we wouldn't
Yes.
have the problem with mass immigration.
Yes, that's right. So, Landon Hardbottom, who said fishing was boring? I think. Andrew, Joe and me know a former phone retailer who was made redundant last year. What's that about?
Oh, a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
who-
All right.
Yeah, I don't think it was anything to do with the lack of sales. It was just they had an excess of managers.
Yeah. Alison, massive fan of Pocock. Cameron, NACC is knackered by design. It is by design. It was crippled from the beginning. Its hearings as well. Remember, there was a secrecy element about the hearings.
And they weren't going to be
really-
retrospective, and it wasn't going to be for politicians. It was only going to be for civil servants. And
These were easy decisions to get right. So easy. You just have to question, you just know there's something rotten in Denmark. As a
no,
result.
it was an agreement between the two major parties that it wouldn't be investigating them.
Yeah. So instead, it's all the way with Donald J.
And I'm happy to write policy for Pauline.
Oh, very good. So the other last item on the agenda is, as you know, I've got a man crush on Yanis Varoufakis. I think he's fantastic. And he wrote an article which was looking at, now, you're going to have to help me here with the French pronunciation, Joe. Have you got that article in front of you? Or
Oh,
Judge,
no.
Judge Nicholas, now it's spelled Guillou.
Juge.
Of course, Juge. Judge Nicholas Juge of the International
Okay.
Criminal Court.
Which means judge. So Judge Nicholas Judge.
Really?
Juge. Yes.
There we go. Good fun fact there, Joe. Do you want to? We won't get you to describe the other French lesson you were giving us before the.
All right.
Yes. Anyway, Yanis has wrote an article about this judge, and this is the judge who made a mistake. Well, he's a magistrate sitting on the bench of the ICC, and you might recall that European diplomacy went to great lengths to establish the ICC so as to turn the page from a past in which war criminals could hide behind their government's shielding. And this judge, meticulously following the procedures of his institution, in the execution of his sworn duties, authorised arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister and former Defence Minister for alleged war crimes in Gaza. And what did the US President Donald Trump's administration do in response?
Sanction him.
Personal sanctions against Judge Juge. Am I getting that right, Joe? Juge?
Yeah, close enough.
So, the imposed sanctions are a masterclass in the evisceration of European sovereignty. They render Juge a non-person, not only in the United States, but also in his own country. Like, it would be bad enough if the US said, we're going to screw you over, mate, if you step foot into America, the States. But they're saying, no, we can screw you over wherever you are in this planet because we have financial control over everything. And he's been locked out of the global digital realm. Can't use WhatsApp, can't use any Google apps, can't use Facebook, Instagram. Even his French bank account is virtually useless given the ban on all payments that require the cooperation of Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and the SWIFT interbank messaging system. If that were not enough, when he recently tried to book a hotel room in France, Expedia cancelled his reservation a few hours later. It's incredible. What do the Europeans do? Nothing. Do they complain, condemn, issue retaliatory sanctions? No. What do the banks do? Meekly accept it. The institutions just, nothing much we can do. Oh, well, too bad. Like, this guy has been hung out to dry. And Varoufakis sort of makes the point that, it's bad enough that this has happened to this guy, but the worst part is that the institutions that's supposed to support him have completely failed and left him hung out to dry. There we go.
The European Court of Human Rights would be able to.
Yep. So, and, again, another action by the United States against a guy who's on the International Criminal Court sanctioning him. And again, we are trying to hitch our wagon even further and closer to the type of people who do this sort of shit. Oh, that's okay, because we've got similar values.
This was the same country that created a preemptive law that said if any of their citizens were held up for trial at the ICC, that they were going to invade Belgium.
Correct. The Hague.
Yeah.
Wherever that was.
Holland.
Yes, that's right. Don't you dare arrest any of our citizens, because we're telling you now, we'll go in forcefully. And Joe, we keep hearing that our alliances with our Western partners are all about upholding the international rules, law. What's the expression that you law?
The international rules-based order.
Yes, that's it. And a phrase invented by Kevin Rudd, of all people, and adopted all around the world. It's insane. We live in an age of monsters, as Gramsci was saying, as the old world is dying and the new world is yet to be created. And that's where
the saddest thing was all of these flouting of the norms was a thing under Donald Trump back in 2016. And the Democrats had 4 years after that to create laws that, rather than just being social niceties, actually made it illegal for the president to do these things. And they didn't do any of it. So there was, all of these things that were talked about that could have prevented this happening again, and nothing happened.
Because Trump's first term demonstrated that a lot of laws kind of relied on people's goodwill and willingness to comply with convention.
Yeah.
And Trump just said, fuck convention.
Yeah.
And so they should have scrambled in those 4 years to go, well, if we can't rely on convention, we better put it in some sort of hard format.
Yeah, and I think the same with our government. We should be looking long and hard and saying, no minister, if they're caught accepting bribes, it's not a oops. They should be out the door. Actually start putting down laws or rules that are enforced.
And, a convention like, well, if you work in defence or if you commentate on defence, when you finish your political career, you should not go and work for a company that is involved in defence, because it raises the suspicion that while you were in that position, you did things to favour that group because you thought that would help you get a job when you exited politics.
Yeah.
So, one of the costs of being a Minister of the Crown in, say, defence should be you don't get to participate in the defence industry afterwards.
Or if you do,
the
then
whole
it's a
thing
different
should be, I think the whole thing should be completely looked at, because you got to look at the last, I think it's the 6 or 7 resources ministers. They've all worked for the resources
mining companies afterwards,
and the mining industry lobby groups.
Yep.
It's just bloody criminal, actually.
It's not that hard to say. It's just the price you pay.
Exactly.
And guess what? You get a good superannuation and benefits and all the rest of it because you can't do that. So, yeah. Anyway. All right, dear listener. Well, we've made it through another episode. Hope you enjoyed that. You guys around next week?
Yeah, I'm around next week.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can make it next week. Until then, bye for now.
And it's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from